This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 746, recorded on Wednesday, November 6th, 2019. Does science bug you? Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight we will fill your head with space, a conservative hotbed, and bug chicks. But first,
TWIS is supported by listeners like you. We thank you for your support. We really couldn't do it without you.
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. What is an Earthling? You? Yeah, you probably qualify as such. We humans are quick to put our own picture into the frame next to the Earthling entry in the Encyclopedia Galactica. But despite our impulse to take a planet teeming with life and assume that we are the most relevant thing living here, there are many forms of life that could just as easily represent the planet. By the numbers, we aren't the most populous life form. We aren't the biggest number by gross weight either. If just counting the number of legs, we are faring even worse than that. And while not being the only Earthling on the planet may not occur to humans who see the Earth as theirs and theirs alone, there are some humans who have noticed that we are not alone. Humans who are interested in understanding more than their own Earthling experience. Humans who therefore know more about what it truly means to be an Earthling than any Earthling ever dared. As long as those Earthlings aren't listening to This Week in Science, coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening, what's happening, what's happening this week in science. What's happening, what's happening, what's happening this week in science.
Good science to you, Kiki and Blair.
and to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are back again. Another week full of science. So many great stories. And we are here to talk about them with you. That's right. We're here to talk with you about science. And oh my gosh. Okay, I brought stories about genes for health. Oh yeah, space might be closed. And I got some brainy thoughts. We also have an interview this evening that might bug you. Maybe. Justin, what do you have for us on the show?
I got a couple of stories relating to the lost city of Atlantis. Not specifically, but generally what it means in today's society.
Generally, in today, right? Okay. I'm very confused and I'd like to know more. So cannot wait. Blair, what is in the animal corner?
Oh, I brought some social bats. I brought elephants in trouble. And maybe if we have time, we'll talk about some shark skin.
I like shark skin when it's attached to sharks.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on. Everyone, if you are not yet subscribed to This Week in Science, I really want to know why. That's not what it is. I want to tell you that you can find us all places that podcasts are found. You can also find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. Search for This Week in Science. You can also find information about us at TWIS, TWIS.org. You can also find information there about our 2020 TWIS Blair's Animal Corner calendar. But right now, it is time for us to jump into that wonderful interview. I would love to introduce our guests tonight, the Bug Chicks. The Bug Chicks are Christy Reddick and Jessica Honecker, scientists, educators, and besties. As you can tell, they know a lot about each other. Yeah. Christy has a Master of Science in Entomology and is an educational media specialist. She studies biology, biodiversity, and distribution of solifuge arachnids in Kenya and wants to train teachers in refugee camps to use insects as educational resources. Jessica also has a Master's of Science in Entomology and is a science illustrator. I'm glad some people have artistic talent. I don't. Her research focuses on integrated pest management, and her research on pecan aphids is helping establish new pest control parameters for farmers in eastern Texas. She plans to continue her work in an effort to reduce reliance on pesticides in developing countries. Thank you both for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, this is exciting.
It is. I mean, we've been Twitter friends for a very long time. And I've been watching the work that you do in education and, really getting people to love insects. How did you get into doing what you do right now? How did you become the bug chicks?
So, I didn't love bugs. I have a degree, I have a BFA in theater and dance. So I was an actor and a dancer my whole life. And actually, I had wanted to study animals, but, and this is going to tie into things that we probably will touch on later on, but in 8th grade, my science teacher, we had to kind of test into a marine biology class. And I really loved all the marine mammals. And I really wanted to take this marine biology class, but she said that I had no aptitude in science. Mm-hmm. And so I should, I know. Mm-hmm. And so that I should stick to what I was good at, which was being on stage and dancing and theater. And so I did that. I stuck with it and I loved it, but there was something in the back of my mind. And by the senior year of my bachelor's degree, I was thinking, this isn't what I wanted to do. So I went back to school and got almost a second bachelor's in evolutionary biology and environmental biology. And I only enrolled in classes to go abroad to study in Kenya. And I was studying large mammals, but I had taken one entomology class only because the other class was chemistry. And I had failed chemistry in high school.
I'm not taking it again.
Take that again. Like, I'm not a sucker. So, and also I didn't know what entomology was. I was like, ology is like living creatures, right? So I'll take that. And the teacher was amazing. His name was Dr. Tim Yoho. And it's just sort of this tale of two teachers. Like my whole thing is a tale of two teachers. And Tim Yoho was the person who just lit me up on the inside about these amazing creatures. So when I went to Africa to study large mammals, I saw a camel spider for the first time and I was like, what is that? And I thought I had discovered like a new kind of animal, because when you first look at a camel spider, right, people know of them as camel spiders. They look like they have 10 legs. And I was quickly counted and I was like, it's a new animal, radicchii. I was like trying to name it. And that was it. I was like, oh, in 3 years, I'm going to be back here and I'm going to study these. And that's how it happened. And then I met Jess in grad school. Like my first week of grad school, I met Jess.
Yeah. And for me, I didn't start in entomology either. I started in physical therapy. And I ended up, like Christy, taking a class that was kind of like I guess I need to take it, in order to graduate. And so the professor was equally amazing. And prior to that point, for me, bugs, I had been really apathetic about them. It's like, yeah, they're there, it's like, I'm not a huge fan of spiders, but like, whatever. And then I took this class, and then I think for me, he sort of opened my eyes to like their actual importance in the world. And, they're, the reason why the planet runs like it does. And so I changed my major from physical therapy to entomology, went to grad school, and then met Christy in an insect photography class.
Yeah. And then
photography class.
Insect photography that neither of our major professors wanted us to take. Because it doesn't contribute to the wasn't science enough. And so I already owned a little production company where I was making bug videos for kids, and I went to Kenya for my research and paid for her on my student loans to go with me.
Worked out well.
Yeah, for you. And
you're like, I've been paying for those.
Yeah,
for years.
I'll pay them forever. But yeah, like 3 months into our trip in Kenya, she was like, where do I sign up for this? Like, how do I? And I was like, come be my business partner. And that was in 2007. And we've been working together ever since.
Nice. So that's the first part I have to comment on, though, is that the amazing disparate teachers. The one that tells you that you have no aptitude in a thing, and the other version of teaching where you walk in with no interest in a thing, and they're so amazing at expressing what their passion for what they're have been studying and teaching, that you then dedicate yourself to it. And also, it runs the risk of the first one runs the risk of like every teacher, like if every class you're like, no, you don't have the aptitude for this either. Right. Like you could just go from class to class being really like, oh, I guess
sure.
This is me.
Well, I guess it's not math. I guess it's not English. I guess it's not
like what am I going to do? And I think that's the thing, and that's really what we've based. It's what I've based my whole teaching philosophy on. And now Jessica and I, the work that we do together is, how do I embody Tim Yoho? Is basically like, how do I embody that feeling that I had in that class where I felt. You can hear all the time that you're capable of anything, but until you feel that you're capable of something, that's the switch that happens.
And the Jim Joy, where it's like he lives up to his name with what he does, and he was just so into it, and he would just write on those clear sheets, the projector things.
Oh my God, he did that. Tim Yoho did that.
Because it's the same generation.
Right. But like pictures and
and it would just like write, and then he would draw bad pictures on the chalkboard. And you're like, I don't know what that is, but like he's real excited about it. So I'm also kind of excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to learn how to, and in your case, Jessica, you're like, I'm going to learn how to draw that better.
I don't know what that is, but I bet I can improve on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to know from that teaching philosophy, like going from the idea of just teaching and kind of inspiring someone to like something to actually making them feel like they can do it and they own it. What's the difference?
I think the difference is how you speak to students. I think, I just taught about 150 kids today, and I always say to kids, first of all, I say, hi, people. And today a 3-year-old in one of the classes goes, why did you call us people? We're not people. And I was like, actually, newsflash, kids are people. Like, you're short and you're still growing and like you're figuring things out, but you're people. And I think that is something that maybe doesn't happen as much as it could, where we speak to young people as though we're actually really interested in what they have to say and in their questions. And for Jessica and I, the work that we do, it has always been social emotional learning connected with the science. We just didn't know that was the name of it.
Yeah.
We just didn't know it had like a buzzword.
And I think that providing students an opportunity to experience something too. So, it's like that you can tell people, what is it that you say? You can tell people that they're capable, but until they feel it. Right. And so providing students with the opportunity to feel it, because a lot of stuff in school is just rote memorization, right? Studying to a test as opposed to actually experiencing a thing.
So we bring in live animals. We have an arthropod zoo that we bring in, and we have a moment with each and every student where we are either looking in their face and saying, what's your name? Great. Hold out your hands. I'm going to do this with you. And if you're scared, we're going to scale it back. And we do something that I call scaffolding. So if a student is like super into it, we're like, great, put it in your hand. If the student is very freaked out, we start with modeling the behavior. And we have little rules like stroke, don't poke, which I just think is a helpful rule in general.
Generally?
Yeah, just generally don't poke, and then, and also, Jessica and I model how you hold things. And then we also model like what it feels like. And then I'm starting to do this new thing where I have them hold their hands up and put their hands in and walk their hands. Because if you've already done it, you can do it. Like you've already felt it, so you can feel it. Because we're dealing sometimes with students with sensory issues or students who have, never felt like they're the good kid in class. And I don't like it when a teacher comes up to us in the beginning, that this stings me. You want to get me mad. A student will come and go, well, Jaden's really a problem. And I'm like, he might be a problem for you, but in our hour, honestly, he's probably going to be the top student. So let's just give that student that chance to be the number one student.
Don't put your own expectations
Right.
and perceptions on us. You know,
we don't need to label. We can experience that, and we're good enough at that, at seeing, like, oh, I'm going to give you guys one chance to sit together, and this is your warning. Rise to the occasion. And if I move you, you're not in trouble. Just fair warning.
And these are often also the teachers who tell us that we're really good with kid management, classroom management. But it's like, we just treat kids with respect and like they're people.
Yeah. And a lot of the teachers are so excited about that social emotional learning component. I don't know if we answered your question, but we're just kind of like,
we're pontificating right now.
I like what you're pontificating about. I want to get into the social emotional learning stuff in a little bit.
Okay, sure.
I mean, to start with, though, let's go back to the idea of introducing insects to kids or to anyone in general. I mean, you talk to anyone about spiders, they're like, spider in my house, and kill it in their
kill it with fire. That's
kill it with fire. That's the big thing that we hear.
Yeah. How do you address? Like you said, you have scaffolding, but let's talk about the word bug versus insect versus arthropod versus how does language affect how people respond to
totally. Language is the key, and so we call ourselves the bug chicks, and I know that that's controversial in many respects, but here's why. If we called ourselves the arthropod chicks, let's just talk about the bug part of it first, like
not the chicks part yet.
We'll deal with that later.
Because this is the more offensive in your circle is actually
So if we called ourselves the arthropod chicks, no one would know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Arthropod is
except other entomologists, and we don't need to teach them.
Right. We're not teaching other entomologists. We're teaching people who don't like bugs. Most of the time, we're teaching people who don't like bugs, and most of the time. We teach a lot of mixed age groups. So if we go to a library or something, you're talking with 3-year-olds to 99-year-olds. You're talking with a lot of adults who have their own bias about bugs, who are either trying or not trying very hard to then place that bias on their children, right? But the children are like, oh, I want to go do this thing. Or we have an hour to kill and it's hot outside. Let's go to the library. So one of the things we do is we break that down. So we start where everyone says it, which is bug, and then we teach the word arthropod, and we talk about what makes an arthropod and we do those classifications, and then we move to dead animals, dead arthropods, which is specimens, and we talk about how they're not smushed and gross,
and we talk about why we have them,
right?
Because there's a lot of questions about
did you kill it?
Why did you nail them in the box? Why did you nail them in the box? And like, do we kill every bug that we see? No. And we so the whole workshop that we do is kind of structured in a scaffolding. We move people up, and also I really love to road map people. I love to sit down and go, I'm Christy. This is Jess. Here's what's happening today. We're going to start by telling you what we do. Then we're going to talk about this tricky word bug. Then we're going to show you dead animals. And at that point, you'll get students who make this face. Or you'll get students who go, ooh. And we go, great. For the next hour, we're changing ooh to cool. And we're changing gross to interesting just for the next hour. Because I want you to shift the way that your brain thinks about these things. And words are one of the first ways that we do that. And then we say, if you're awesome, we're going to let you hold and pet and touch live animals. And they're all psyched about that, but they're also nervous. And then we do a grand finale, and her name is Beyonce. And everybody wants to see Beyonce. That's a trick. So,
one of the things you mentioned is the kids coming in inheriting bias. From others. This is completely happened with my my youngest daughter. She still is. A bug file. She'll see a bug and she'll want to pick it up and play with it. And she has a little bug catcher kit, and she'll catch it and look at it for a while and then go put it back. But at some point, she started saying spiders are gross. I'm like, wait, you've never been afraid of or thought a spider was gross ever. But some, kids at school saw a spider and we're all calling it gross. And so she was.
Yeah. And she's trying to fit in.
Yeah, she's trying to fit in, and there's modeling of peers, there's modeling of mentors, there's modeling of adults. You're bombarded all the time by like, how should I be acting and or feeling about any of these things? And it's really difficult to kind of stand in Like, well, what is your actual experience? You know?
Well, I think too, there's something about the biology behind if everyone else is afraid of a thing,
might be handy to also,
we're being told
mom
we're supposed to
mentality.
be afraid. Everyone's running in that direction. I'm not going to waltz where everyone's running from. Right? So I feel like I experience this bringing snakes into classrooms all the time. That if everyone is afraid, then it makes sense I should be afraid too.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a survival thing. That's kind of baked in. And we get that. And part of it is like, what is the media telling us? What are we hearing about? Even on nature shows with the dripping fangs and the dark music and don't get me started. I can't.
We're all going to die from sharks and snakes and spiders in Australia.
Right. The 10 deadliest of
or solifuges.
Yeah, or camel spiders. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's how we do it. We do that. And then we're also willing to be vulnerable. I used to be afraid of spiders. When I was 9 or 10, terrified of spiders. And Jessica wasn't really into spiders either. And so we tell them like, hey, when we were your age, we didn't like them either. And now we travel around the world, literally, and we teach people all about these amazing creatures. So how did we do that? And we walk them through a bravery exercise. I make them take a deep breath. And I make them repeat after me. I say, today I will be brave. And you, Kiki, you just talked about the language that people use. And we have this whole thing. Basically, we're giving you our bar workshop. So basically, I say, like, usually at this point, you'll have one of the students go, I'm not gonna touch it. I don't want to touch it.
Just before they even come out.
They're like, no, they're shut down. And I will use that student. I'll go, what is your name? I'll go, great. And I'll go, okay, so here's the deal. When we say, I don't, I can't, I won't, I'm not, we make our world small and we make ourselves small. If we say things like, I can, I will, I am, I'll try, we make ourselves big in the world and capable. And so I make them say, today I will be brave. And if they don't want to touch it, I will have them shift it to, I will look. They're doing the same thing. You're not touching it. Yeah. But it's just a verbal and an attitudinal shift.
And if there is any of the sort of melodramatics that happen with, like clumps of students, we'll shut it down.
Yeah. Because part of that is also students, because sometimes it's true fear and we have to be respectful of that. And we are very respectful of that. And sometimes we can kind of tell now after doing this for like 10 years that you can tell who the students are who are doing it because they're needing some attention. And so the attention that we're going to give them is not attention based on their fear response. It's attention based on the positive behavior that they're showing or the fact that they're able to express themselves. And so it's redirection of that behavior that then we put a positive spin on it. And by the end, they're holding and they've really come around.
That's really amazing. And I've seen kids come around like that before with snakes, with spiders, with other insects. And it's really a wonderful thing to see. It's just really, so moving from that kind of, being brave and enlarging a child's world, what is the SEL curriculum, the social emotional learning curriculum that you have embarked on?
I'm so excited about this.
Well, it's your baby. It's a thing.
It's your you midwifed it. I birthed it. Did a whole thing, man. It's a whole deal.
BFFs
forever, girl. So SEL, social emotional learning, we created a curriculum using arthropods to teach about social emotional learning. And basically it's actually social dynamics with teens. So we did it for 6th through 12th grades, but actually we've had a lot of interest from 4th and 5th grade teachers as well. So we're going to adapt it for those teachers as well. But basically, so we teach 10 science concepts. So the example that we love to give is camouflage, blending in, crypsis, camouflage, and also disruptive coloration, where you have caterpillars, like your lovely striped sweater right now, Blair. So disruptive coloration, if we multiplied you and there were like 15 Blairs, you all could stand real close together.
And you couldn't tell where one Blair started and the other Blair ended.
And you're not blending into your environment, but you're blending into each other. And so that's a really interesting concept. And so then we talk about those science concepts. And then at the end of each video, we have self-reflection questions for the students. And so for the blending in video, it's something like, have you ever blended in so much that you felt like you disappeared? And that, which is huge, especially for girls with voicelessness. If you blend into a group and the group does something you don't agree with, do you feel like you can speak up, or are you going to blow your cover? Which is a huge thing in teen groups, right?
Yeah, like, are you going to step in if something's going down? Or are you going to film it and post it on social media?
And so these are things that kids are dealing with all the time. And so you're seeing here, these are the 10 different concepts that we talk about. And so Jessica and I handle all of the bug stuff. And then we bridge the gap into those personal reflection questions. And then the teacher takes it from there. And the teacher will moderate a group discussion with the students. And then at the end, you talk about this part.
So at the end, there's a project that they work on in small groups, and they take the things that they've talked about and the things that they've learned, and they create projects that they then go out and like implement within their community, whether it is with like a sports team or something even within like a family group or something like that.
Right.
Just something that goes out and has a positive impact.
Right
on
there.
Out in the world.
And it's called different action. And so they choose an action to take on this community. And it's a technology project because kids love technology. And so, they could do a podcast, they could do a video, they could make a song. It doesn't matter. We don't care what it is. But like, say they choose action kindness or action empathy or action tolerance, and they enact this on a group of people. And then the final step is something that I'm really
super cool,
really psyched about. So IBM has Watson. It's their machine learning program.
Yeah.
And they have this natural language understanding program. And so we're doing something called I used to think, now I think. And we're having the students fill it in online. And so Watson's natural language learning program it's like sentiment analysis. So they're taking the words and they can code these words and show you % change from -1 to +1, and you can track sentiment and emotional change.
So it's like
in a student.
It's like data on how perception changes on a certain topic.
So so that's the assessment piece to this, because I think it's hard to make a curriculum nowadays without an assessment piece. And also we're scientists, we like data, so that's interesting to us.
I think that's amazing to be able to take the Watson that people probably know from Jeopardy.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Beating all the people, hands down. But what it's being used for, this is a really interesting aspect of use to be able to address. And it really checks in on how effective is the curriculum, what kind of an impact is it having?
Exactly, because we need to know that in order to make it better and to serve teachers better and to serve the students. Though I think I'm going to change it from I used to think, now I think, to I used to feel, now I feel, because we just did it with teenagers 2 weeks ago in the Amazon rainforest. And do you like that humble brag?
What in the Amazon?
The Amazon.
Just whatever. And they did more fact-based. They were like, I used to think this fact, now I think this fact. But I think if we change the word to feel and maybe provide an example, it will help to guide that a little bit better, since we're not going to be there with the students.
So what you're also amazingly then working on is the roadmap of getting somebody to change their mind about something, which is, can you start working with Blair on figuring out how to convince people, change people's thinking on global warming? Like, can you walk somebody through like climate denierism in some sort of a way?
Maybe,
I think that one of the things that, not to like sound super boastful, but I think one of the things that we're really good at is being able to put bugs in terms that people can understand and people can relate to. And so I think that, you should be able to do that with any variety of science, right? Because it affects us all. Bugs affect us all,
right?
Regardless of whether or not we want to admit to it.
We named the curriculum different because of something that we always teach about, that different isn't bad. Like just because something's different, that doesn't automatically mean it's bad. But we as humans are so human centered that we think we're good. And because we are like, what is that word? 0, 1?
Binary.
Thank you. Because we are binary in nature, we're pretty black and white in nature. If we're good and you're different, that must make that bad, right? So I'm wondering if there's something. I mean, we're not climate experts. It definitely affects insect populations, and that's kind of the way that we approach it. But that would be really interesting, I think, if we could do something like that. We would love to at least take a stab at it. Totally.
Well, so what's so interesting about the climate change network that I'm a part of, Noki, is that one of their kind of pillars that makes them different from other climate change communication networks is focusing on the social emotional side of climate change communication.
Awesome.
So definitely ringing some bells here. And I think it's an important part of the conversation, right? Figure out where people are at so that you can bring them to the next step and recognize their emotions and deal with those. Because when we try to get too analytical and take emotion out of the conversation, you're kind of denying people their human side.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone wants to take care of their family.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants their family to be safe. Let's start there. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is cool stuff.
And it's never boasting if you're just keeping your humility humble for a moment. You're not flaunting how humble you can be all the time.
Oh, we can be pretty humble.
Jessica like never boasts, so I'm actually shocked that you.
Well, I got a little. I got a little queasy.
She was like, "Oh God, I'm gonna throw up in my mouth."
It's like I have to add a caveat, guys.
So with the curriculum, what are you? I mean, I am number one. I think it's wonderful that it's something that bugs, insects, you would never expect that you could teach kids, how to be human with insects. So that I think is an amazing connection there.
I mean, those 10 different things, like one of them is called misunderstood, and it's all of these misunderstandings that we have about basic bug behaviors, like from June beetles and how they fly at you because they're crappy flyers, to I think I talk a lot about camel spiders in that one. And then we have this other one called What's in a Name, and we talk about death feigning beetles, and all people hear is death beetle. They didn't hear the middle part.
Feigning.
But they're also called blueberry beetles. And so, it's
that
like,
was great.
It's like the word.
Thank
That
you. That was my death feigning beetle. Just.
That was very nice, Thanatosis. It was beautiful. Okay. Yeah. So using the words that we use, and we always do try to tie it back to empathy for these amazing creatures that share our planet, but at the same time, how can we move through the world in a different way? I want to help change our perceptions of ourselves, not change. And actually, we got a comment on this on Facebook, so I hope this dude's listening. I don't have an ideology. And also, if ideology is empathy, then, put on your Sunday best and come to my church, because I will preach empathy all day long. But it's not about changing someone's perception to what I think. It's about challenging your perception of yourself, others, and the natural world. That is what the curriculum is meant to do. And I think that is what school should be about as well, giving us the critical thinking skills to sit back, and also the digital and scientific literacy to be able to digest information, and not just digest it, but understand it, to use the critical thinking skills that you have. I'm like all worked
and
up.
And the personal wherewithal to understand that you're not the center of the universe.
Boom!
Right. See, and this is the problem, because you do have to change people's minds just to educate them in the first place. I mean, that's
Sure.
the process of education is changing the way you thought about things, challenging the way you thought about things. And there are people who resist education even. So
Sure.
Yeah.
the thing about telling there was kind of this whole conversation over the weekend about this, but there is a difficulty in we were talking about convincing somebody that they're wrong, that you can't do it with facts, that you do have to take these intermediate steps to get them to changing their position without losing face and without attacking.
So I would say part of that is exactly the language that you use there.
Yes.
And telling somebody that they're wrong or teaching them that they're wrong is not the goal, right? Teaching them to think about it differently or accept new information is a different way to think about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of the sandwich technique where you like give like a good, that's really awesome, this blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, but also, did you think about this? Because this and this and this, and isn't that amazing? And, you know, I love having these conversations because it's always interesting or, whatever. Bad news, the good news, the bad news.
I actually have a question.
Good news, bad news, good news.
Because as I mentioned before, I take animals into classrooms, but I don't take invertebrates normally. So with snakes in particular, another misunderstood animal, right?
Yes.
I have noticed that when I bring a snake to a kindergarten classroom, everybody touches it, no hesitation.
Yep.
If I bring a snake to a high school classroom, it is a big to-do, and it takes sometimes 10 minutes for me to convince people to touch the snake. Is this something that you see where the biases actually increase and the fear increases as they age?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fear increases 100%. That is something that we see all the time. And
Kids
actually,
are fearless.
Yeah, little ones are usually fearless, but it is all of this input from media, from peers, from what is socially acceptable. A girl who likes bugs when she's little, we just got an email from a dad. This kid's been following us for 7 years. And when she was little, she would send us videos and all these things. And now she's in middle school and she's in a bug club, but she's starting to think maybe she doesn't like bugs anymore because of pressure from her peers.
Because it's not cool.
Because it's not cool, or because it's not girly, or because it's not acceptable. And Jess and I were teaching. We taught a couple years ago at a juvenile correctional facility for girls.
That was great.
Oh my God. I'm sorry if I cry. I apologize.
It's one of the best workshops we've ever had.
And we're teaching, and these kids are in a tough situation in their lives individually. They're in a tough situation together in this correctional facility. We brought in Madagascan hissing cockroaches, which are like, totally a normal thing to bring in for outreach. It's like, at this point, we're like, cockroaches. But we brought them in, and these girls had never seen them before. And of course, when you're dealing with an incarcerated population, you're talking about already bias built into that because of the population that is there, racial bias and economic bias against, populations of young kids. And so we're in with these teen girls, and everyone was freaking out about petting this cockroach. And I picked this one girl who was very loud and very anti-touching it. But I could tell that if she did it, everyone else would do it. And so Jessica and I said, people really think teenagers are really scary. You ever feel that way? Like if you're in a group of teens and you're walking down the street, and she's like, yeah, I feel that. And I'm like, and I said, does that? And she was like, well, I never want to feel that way ever again. Like misunderstood that way. And she was like, yeah, okay, I see what you're doing. And she stepped up and she touched it. And every single other girl, I'm not joking, just filed in line. And they were like, well, if she touched it, I'm going to touch it. And it became this, not like one up, but like a supportive one upmanship.
Yeah.
It was Jessica and I were.
They were crying. We were crying.
Everyone was crying. We let them name our scorpion.
The guard was like...
We'd let them name our scorpion, and we had the scorpion
touching
for
a cockroach.
Years. I know, touching a cockroach.
So huge.
It's such a big deal. And And they named our female scorpion Essence, which is like the greatest name ever for a big giant forest scorpion. They named it Essence. And so from then on, we had to tell all the rest of the students that we taught. They were like, "What's the scorpion's name?" We were like, "Essence." Her name is Essence. It was so great. They wrote us letters. Like, it was amazing.
I like the way that you had the wherewithal to pick the right girl out of the group to sort of be the leader, and also that she got that she was being brought on board.
She got it. You can see that light, you know. And I think that's just from teaching, and any person who, like, we're not certified teachers, you know, like we don't have teaching certifications, but I used to train. We train.
Yeah,
teachers,
and you know, when you do so many of these, you learn how to read a crowd, and like who the people are who are going to be, you know, the loud ones and the quiet ones, and
also making sure that you are supporting the quiet ones, because sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I always want to make sure in a group that I am asking to make sure if someone has a question or if they want to answer. And when a boy speaks over a girl in one of our classes, we immediately are like, hey, I appreciate your enthusiasm. I just want you to notice something. When Sierra spoke, or you know, when Taylor spoke, everybody listened to him and everyone was quiet. But Sierra started to speak and you started to speak over her. So I just want you to notice that.
Boy,
I want you to notice it for the rest.
There'd be a lot of interruptions on this show. We get a lot of talk.
Yeah. So that's what we do. That's what we do.
Where can, if there are teachers in our audience who are interested in your social emotional learning curriculum, where can they find it?
Yes, they can find it on our website, thebugchicks.com. And so right there, you can buy an individual teacher license, and that stays with the teacher. But if you want this for your school, like if a school wants it or a district wants it, they can contact us, and we're doing, you know, district, and it's lifetime license. So we'll do that for, you know, we'll cater it towards your school or your district. So that's where you can find it. Oh, but
and we made a discount code for those who are listening to this podcast. So at checkout, when you put in TWIS bug, then that'll give you 10% off the total price of the curriculum.
Yeah,
nice.
That's pretty special.
And you also said something that was, I thought, very apt, that you had midwifed and birthed this thing into existence.
Yes.
One of my favorite writers about education, John Dewey, describes not the Dewey Decimal System. This is the architect of the first person who came up with an education system in the United States that wasn't memorization. But he very explicitly describes education as if it were a living thing, of knowledge being a living thing.
Yeah.
And that it has to be reproduced, otherwise it's a thing that dies. So what you are talking about is very resonant of his writings, and the way you talk about it, I can tell that passion's really legit, really there.
We, you know, I kind of wrote it, and then Jessica came in and we filmed all the videos, and we made all, you know, and it's tied to NGSS standards and to CASEL standards, which is the Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning. And so it's tied to SEL standards and next generation science standards for teachers. And we provide further investigations, experiments they can do.
That was its own labor pains.
That was its own labor pains. But then, you know, we workshopped it with teachers at the National Science Teachers Association for 3 years before we launched it, to make sure that we were on the right path, because we also wanted to make sure that we were using proper language when we're asking questions. We didn't want to ask questions in a way that might do more damage or might harm, students. And we also have one in there that I will talk about called Arms Race, where we talk, you know, violence in schools and shootings in schools is something that happens all over the country, and students are bearing the brunt of it right now. And so we decided to attack that concept. And so we talk about defenses that insects and other arthropods use. And then we let the teacher decide how they get into that line of questioning. So
exactly sort of like how deep you want to go into that dive, or if you just want to stick to the arthropod stuff.
Right. So it's very adaptable for teachers and for different subsections of the United States, because different students are going to be dealing with different things in rural America versus the cities versus different things. So it's highly adaptable for teachers.
Nice.
This sounds amazing, and I just love it. I think it's amazing what you're doing. Thanks. Yeah, and I hope that it is adopted by science teachers and not necessarily science teachers. You know, if you want a different way to approach getting concepts across to your kids in your classrooms, that this is a really, really sounding curriculum.
Guidance counselors are really liking it a lot. Guidance counselors and school psychologists are.
Oh, no doubt. Okay.
Yeah.
They get okay. So which was your favorite insect? Okay, now I know what to focus on.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, totally.
They do the Rorschach blot test, and they're like, "Oh, you saw a wasp? You saw a butterfly? No,
right?
No.
Yeah. Here's this video. Let's talk about this. Yeah,
let's talk about this. Yeah. In your working with kids and in the teachings that you do you find any questions that are asked more often than others about insects?
Yeah,
I would say so.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
I'm drawing a blank right now, but I can see me in every workshop with Jessica where we're like, that question. Definitely, like,
just in general, will it bite me?
Will it bite?
Does it bite? Does it sting?
Does it sting? But also, students are really interested in bullet ants. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Students are interested in things that sting them because of a certain YouTube channel, certain someone on YouTube who forces animals to sting him.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into it right now because I don't think you allow cursing on your podcast. But so we get a lot of fear-based questions about that, and also
and a lot of that sensational, did you know this? Did you know? And we're just like but actually
pseudo bravery kind of stuff.
The fronting,
yeah.
There we go. Good word.
Yeah. So we really combat a lot of that with the work that we do. Yeah, we're kind of trying to undo some of those.
Yeah, because they're sensational enough and they're amazing enough. You don't have to turn them into something they're not.
Yeah, you don't have to. That's exactly right. They're such incredible creatures, and everyone's got their own way of doing things, and that's fine. But one of the things we have wanted for a really long time that has not come to pass, and I think we might need to let it go, is that we've wanted a wildlife show for a really long time, and we got passed over just recently. We've been working with a production company, and a big network really wanted to hire us, and then they backed out at the last minute because people don't want to learn about bugs. But then they hired someone who's sensational, who is a man. So
right. I was waiting for that one.
Yeah,
it
could go without saying.
Who was it?
We've been asked to wear leather cat suits, flannel cat suits, to talk about insects. Yeah.
What?
Wait.
They wanted me to
How
talk about
that?
Yeah, they wanted me to talk about insect mating because I used to teach this course, and I did a big thing about insect reproductive strategies, and they wanted me to do it in a cat suit.
We also that would, of course, make it
way more interesting, right? Right.
And then we had that one guy who told us that we needed to delete all of our videos and close all of our social media accounts and reopen it up as have you guys seen Green Porno with Isabella Rossellini?
Yes.
It's so great. It's super
cool. Them.
And we do a version of it where we do dating, where I wear a mustache and I'm the male and she's the female, and we do how insects date, because we didn't want to rip off Isabella Rossellini. But this guy wanted us to do sex.
Yeah, like sex tapes.
Like mating bugs, but with a green filter over it, like Kim Kardashian sex tapes.
Yeah, and then he, in the next sentence, went on to talk about how his daughter was going to a STEM camp and how she was super excited about it. And we were just like, I can't. I don't think we want to work with you.
Then we had a production company. We were actually filming a pre-pilot, and the production company, I was explaining about spider silk and tension. I was explaining about tensile strength, and I was like, I think a visual will be really helpful here. There's a really great graph that shows this, and I can explain it if you want, and we could just pop it up. And he was like, we'll have a man explain the science. It was our show.
Like, to our face, he said that.
He said it to our face.
And it was just like, it was a moment where she and I were both like,
Yeah.
Cool.
all right, so
we're
that's a wrap.
we're not there yet, and I feel sad that I feels like we're missing our chance. And then there's like an ageism thing too. Like as we get older, we're missing our chance to do this. But if that happens, I want to be very supportive of younger, competent, learned women who might get that chance. So maybe we
let's hope that
help
it's
produce or something.
younger, competent, and learned women who get that chance.
And I'm right there with you. I will be the older scientist, female scientist, rooting the younger scientists on with a little sadness, but
bittersweet, right?
Yeah.
a little bittersweet, but yeah.
We've tried for 10 years.
Yep. I tried for many years also, and finally was like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I was told to my face that I would never host a show by myself. That if I ever got a show, it would be with a male co-host, and them being more dominant in the show.
That's why you're always shin kicking me. I thought
Justin.
it was just, everyone else gets angry, and I get this really kick this really hard shin kick under the desk. That's why we're in this.
Justin, you're talking over the females right now.
I'm doing it
It's
again.
time for you to like tone it down.
Oh, jeez.
Totally
I'm so
kidding.
sorry.
Totally kidding.
I'm the problem. I had no idea.
So in the chat room, somebody is putting up ideas, Curiosity Stream and others. I mean, there are the wonderful thing is now we have the web. We have the internet.
We can do it on our own.
And we can do it on our, yes, we can do it on, you can do it on your own. You're creating videos, you're creating this amazing content that is being used across the country in universities, in high schools, middle schools.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing.
I mean, and if you ask the kids that you're visiting, they're going to tell you TV's over anyway.
I know.
TV's over.
Okay, boomer. Yeah, totally.
Okay, boomer. Yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think after this next round with this production company, I think Jessica and I just need to do what we should have done maybe 10 years ago. But we got off YouTube originally because there were so many nasty comments.
Yeah.
And we were trying to be in schools, and we didn't want to expose kids to the nasty comments. It's a catch.
Now you can turn comments off.
And now we're going to turn comments off.
Yes, you can.
So I think we're going to get back to it. I think we need, obviously there's like funding and things like that. But I think we're getting back to it. We're excited.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the beauty of it is on the internet, you can control your message. You can control your identity.
Yeah.
You don't have somebody telling you that's off brand. You can do whatever you need to there. And it's way cheaper. So
And that's the other thing. That's the other thing, Kiki. If ever the show had been picked up, you'd be doing spots for pharmaceutical companies. You'd be telling them what food to eat. I mean, it would really quickly degenerate if somebody else had content control. I mean, it's not. The sexism part of it is a huge thing.
Yeah.
But the other thing is just the messaging about science is on a ridiculous level. What actually is allowed to be presented to the great population is
maybe it's just a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe we wouldn't be getting. There's so many good science shows out there nowadays that I don't think could be that would exist ever in the mainstream media form. But now, as they see an appetite for it build, then maybe it becomes the mainstream.
Right.
I mean, Curiosity Streams, I think, is a pretty good example of some taking science documentaries and packaging them all together and saying, here's all the stuff you actually look for when you buy one of these.
And I think it's Curiosity Stream was founded by the guy who originally founded the Science Channel, but then he was like, money, and I couldn't do what I wanted to do because of advertising and this and that.
Actually teach
That's
science.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so he started Curiosity Stream. So
I think I might maybe.
For the listener, they're making a signal like they're going to type to the Curiosity stream and make a connection. So
my miming and face does not translate on. you can't hear your silent movements.
Can't hear it on the audio.
I mean, if there was ever an endorsement to check out the YouTube, now's the time.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna take a break and we're gonna go into the rest of the science-y part of our show. Are you gonna stick around with us, or are we going to say goodbye right now?
Yeah, we'll stick around.
We'll be quieter and let you know.
And I might need an extra minute, so I might not be back right away.
Okay, so the Bug Chicks. If you want to know more about the Bug Chicks, you can find them at their website, thebugchicks.com. And that is where you can also find a link to their SEL curriculum. And what was the discount code again?
TWIS BUG. BUG.
TWIS Bug.
TWIS Bug.
TWIS Bug. This is This Week in Science, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with science for you. Stay tuned.
Can't explain things you've heard more than intuition.
Thank you for listening to This Week in Science. We are so appreciative of the fact that you have decided to spend your time with us, that you are here joining us for the science, for this wonderful interview with the Bug Chicks. If you would like to support what we do, we try to make it nice and easy for you. You can find information at TWIS.org. TWIS.org is our website where we have links to all sorts of things like our Zazzle store. So you can click on the Zazzle store link in the main header bar, and that will take you to our Zazzle store where there are all sorts of cool products. Hats, pillows, tote bags for your groceries, t-shirts, aprons, hats, wonderful things with the TWIS logo or with images from past Blair's Animal Corner calendars. Speaking of Blair's Animal Corner calendar, you can click on the big frog. That's right. It's not a hypnotoad. It is a frog. And it is the cover of the TWIS 2020 Animal Corner calendar. Click on that. You'll be able to pre-order the 2020 calendar. We'll be ordering those soon and beginning to send them out to you so that you can get them in time for before the holidays, before the end of the year. So if you want to get yourself a gift, get someone else who loves TWIS a gift, get someone who loves science and animals a gift, this might be a really great option for you because we, in addition to letting you know when TWIS is every week, we also have a lot of science holidays in this calendar, keeping you up to date on all the science shindigs that happen throughout the year. And Blair has put together some amazing art that is stained glass inspired for the calendar this year. Moving on forward, another way that you can support us is clicking on that Patreon link. Click on the Patreon link. It will take you to our Patreon page where you can choose your level of support. $10 and above every month, and we will thank you by name at the end of the show. But there are many options, many different levels of support for those of different abilities, financial abilities, and it's only once a month. And we give you little gifts in return because we thank you. We really do thank you for your support of This Week in Science. We really could not do this without you.
We can't explain things you've heard more than intuition.
And we're back. You're listening to This Week in Science.
We are back. We have the science coming to you. But before we get to the science, it's time for This Week in What Has Science Done For Me Lately? This week, I have an anonymous note. The anonymous note reads, Dr. Kiki, I'd like to share a true but crazy story involving the microbiome. When I was born, I was unable to process breast milk or lactose from cow milk, and I had to be put on a soy milk. Sounds about right. When I got older, around 4, this allergy seemed to go away, and I was able to drink milk all through my childhood with only a slight souring on my stomach that left my breath kind of bad. That can happen as well. I later had a surgery, and the anesthesia apparently killed off a lot of my microbiome, and poof, I was lactose intolerant again. It makes my stomach hurt and gives me diarrhea, so I just avoid it altogether now. What happened? When I was 4, my mean older cousin decided to feed me some waste from our outhouse. That accidental fecal transplant made me able to mostly digest lactose for over 30 years until my gut biome got decimated. Now, this is the honest truth. It sounds nuts, but when my cousin admitted doing this pretty much on her deathbed, it hit me that this had to be what cured my lactose intolerance and why it came back after my surgery.
Wow. The whole time I'm like, yeah, okay, anonymous, fine. Now I understand why. That's interesting.
The most amazing story. Yeah.
I mean, it's a single data point, and so you might go, okay, this could be this circumstance, right? We don't know that it's causation. It could be correlation. We don't know these things. It's not an experiment, but the timing of everything, and we talk about the fecal transplants a lot to
And there are animals that eat their parents' poop to feed the microbiome.
Best beetles do that, absolutely. But how do you not know if you're on the receiving end of someone feeding you something from an outhouse? I think she did know.
No, not
the person admitted it on their deathbed.
Yeah,
repressed memories.
Which, by the way,
I feel like got snuck into something.
By the
put
way,
it in their milkshake. Or,
by the way,
I don't know.
If
Sorry if
you're out
anyone's
there listening,
eating a milkshake right now. I apologize.
Good tip for life. If you have something that you haven't told that is of this nature, don't wait till your deathbed. Don't let those be your last words.
No.
Don't let that be the parting memory. Get it out of the way now, and then you'll have something better that you can reveal.
It's a crappy way to go. This one.
I do wonder, though. It is, yeah. And I do wonder. I mean, I have lactose intolerance. I wonder at times. I'm not going to any outhouses, and Dr. Justin's not a real doctor, would never actually tell you to go to an outhouse. So nobody take this as medical advice.
No, because Dr. Justin's not a real doctor. Poo pills have been selected from a known biome that can already digest milk and doesn't have gastrointestinal problems. So I still don't.
They have a very selective process too for fecal transplants, right? Like they're really
well, and they refine it down to get rid of absolutely anything that might,
I mean,
that's undesired.
Infection from something like that would be just terrible. So
and it has happened. It has happened,
right? Oh my goodness. Well, all I can say is if your cousin actually did this to you, shame on her. If your cousin, but you're very lucky for not getting sick, and what a bonus to be able to eat lactose products for most of your life.
I think the real bonus is not having ever known it had happened. This is also a big bonus.
Thank you for writing in with your story. Absolutely appreciate it. And if you want to write in with your story of what science has done for you lately, send me an email, Kirsten, KIRSTEN, @thisweekinscience.com, or leave us a message on our Facebook page. That's This Week in Science on Facebook. Moving into the science. Hey, you know what? Space might be closed.
Like for today?
No, like forever. Like it's always been closed and we just didn't know it. And not just space, but I mean like space-time, the universe, the cosmos, everything closed. As opposed to flat
Finite
and
loop?
ever.
Oh.
Yes, as opposed to flat and ever expanding. Researchers reanalyzing Planck satellite data of the universe have published in Nature Astronomy this week this new analysis that instead of a flat expanding universe, as pretty much all the data and experimentation that we've ever done has suggested we live in, nope, they say, quote unquote, it clearly points toward a closed model. And in this closed model, I mean, it's really fascinating. It basically means that our universe is like a loop. And if you were to shoot a laser beam out into space, that it would end up coming back around to where it started at some point. This is mind-boggling.
So it's
and
like a
blowing.
Pac-Man scene is what you're saying. Like you drive your
Asteroids.
Pac-Man off the edge and then it comes back on the other
It comes
side.
right,
Like
about
asteroids,
right
yeah.
around. Yep, exactly like that. And so, yeah,
Is it like a donut? Like a
not like a donut. Nope, not like a donut. More
Like a Mobius
sphere.
strip?
More like a sphere. Just, but you're inside the sphere, and maybe I don't. I honestly have a hard time comprehending the idea of a closed universe.
what's
as opposed
outside the sphere?
to the same thing that would be outside our flat universe, which is whatever's out there, but is really nothing because it's nothing, not our space.
I mean, it's not
What?
needed out there.
Well, so
We should not have stayed. We're not bringing anything to this conversation.
Don't worry, I'll be dumbing it back down real soon. Don't worry.
when you get outside of what they're talking about our universe, though, you're also talking about you're going beyond where time exists.
Yes.
That's where things get really wonky. You're not just talking about like, we ran out of space and then
Right.
bonk, we hit the edge. It also would mean that time, because time is an artifact of the Big Bang, as is the expansion of space. So they're talking about it's best to leave it with an analogy of a donut. I think that
Fair enough. Okay.
there's
We'll
parts
leave-
that aren't donut.
I like donuts. According to this analysis, though, what they're looking at is the cosmic microwave background radiation. And this light has a particular density to it. And the CMB, cosmic microwave background radiation, you can listen to it in the static on your radio or your television, if that still happens in the world. You can tune in the static of the beginning of the universe. This density over previous measurements that suggest that the universe had a very specific density to it that led to gravitational lensing that has led to the ideas of expansion of the universe as the way we know it. However, this new analysis, the lensing of the CMB, the universe may be about 5% denser than we thought. And if that works that way, then that means that the way we're looking at the universe is kind of wrong. This new analysis fixes some problems of like the cosmological constant. Don't have to worry about that so much anymore. Things get fixed that were kind of fudge factors to begin with. One thing that does not get fixed, though, a couple weeks ago, Justin, you talked about a cosmological crisis in the measurement of this background radiation and the light that we're seeing, and how different measurements, say based on supernovas versus the Planck satellite constant and like others, they've come up with different measurements. And if this new analysis is right, then that gets even worse. So in some ways, this makes things better, but in other ways, it makes it worse. And really, the researchers are saying this is one reanalysis, and a lot of cosmologists and astrophysicists are actually coming out about this analysis and saying, no, this is a statistical fluke. It may be the same kind of statistical fluke that is equivalent to flipping 11 heads in a row which really never happens, right? It just is not, it's statistically unlikely. But when you're talking about the number of molecular and atomic interactions that have happened since the beginning of time, then that is a drop in the bucket, and it may be a statistical fluke. So everyone's saying ignore it, except for the people who wrote the paper. And there may be, I don't know, this may lead to a new direction in looking at our universe and questioning the Big Bang and what exactly is going on. What do we even really know, everyone?
Nothing. So this is the thing that happens in science over and over and over again. You have this historical knowledge of how something works or what something is. Somebody shows up and says, I have another theory, and then they're burned at the stake or laughed out of the lecture hall or whatever it is, right? And it still happens today. This is a great example. Somebody comes in with an alternate idea, and they're just going, don't listen to him. Instead of maybe, I don't know, just testing the data again or collecting some more data and testing the theory better, seeing if it's replicable. I don't know. Come on, guys.
But what it does mean is there's a lot more study to be done in cosmology. For all you graduate students, you have long careers ahead of you.
We have placeholders. You know, dark energy isn't a thing that we know what it is. It's a placeholder for a massively unknown dark matter. We can tell that it's there, but it's still a placeholder for the thing that's affecting it that we don't understand. And again, to take it down to the simplest form, we don't have a mechanism for gravity. We know what gravity is associated with mass and things like this, but we don't actually know why it works. We don't know.
We have no
and that's
magnets.
Such a fundamental
It's
thing
magnets.
that we all encounter. It's not a giant magnet. That's the thing. We don't know the mechanism for it. So as for as much as we do know about how things work in the universe, there's a lot of very simple questions that we can, touch and feel and interact with, even like gravity. Just dropping an object to the ground, we don't know the mechanism behind it. We know it's related and correlated to things, but we don't actually have a mechanism for it. So, it's fascinating.
It is fascinating, and I look forward to many more papers and conversations about this new idea and these new thoughts. It just means more looking at the data, more conversations. And as we get older and these graduate students get older, maybe they have a long, healthy future to look forward to, thanks to research that is currently making old mice live healthier. Because that's what we do.
We're like,
Tell us everything.
That's right. Researchers from the Weiss Institute for Biologically Inspired Engineering at Harvard University and Harvard Medical School. This is affiliated with George Church and his efforts in aging and synthetic biology. This report has been published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, PNAS. What the researchers did is they injected virus-based gene therapy into mice who were old and suffering from obesity, diabetes, heart failure, and kidney failure. And they found that the genes that they injected into these mice made the mice healthier. Yes. So these genes, FGF21, STGF-beta-R2, alpha-klotho, these are a number of genes that have been associated with reversal of weight gain in type 2 diabetes. These genes have been associated with increased health and lifespan benefits in mice. And in the experiments previous to this, the mice had been genetically engineered to overexpress these genes. And so these were like just super healthy mice. They're overexpressing them, and they were doing really great. They lived long, healthy lives. So this time around, instead of overexpression of the genes naturally within the animals, they took mice and then fed them a very high-fat, high-calorie diet until they became obese and diabetic, and then gave them this gene therapy. The virus vector allowed the gene to be inserted into the cells, and the cells then repaired. They complete reversal of weight gain with the animals that were given the FGF21. Diabetic mice following a single gene therapy administration and its combination with STGF beta R2, this reduced kidney atrophy by 75% in mice with renal fibrosis. Heart function in mice with heart failure improved by 58% when they were given the STGF beta R2 by itself or in combination with FGF21 or the other gene. So combined therapeutic treatments they found of this FGF21 and the STGF beta R2 successfully treated all 4 of the age-related conditions.
That is so awesome.
And it didn't change the genome. This isn't CRISPR. It isn't going in and editing the genome. Right. It's just going into the cells and adding the gene in, and then they got better.
Were the mice still eating the high-fat, high-calorie diet after they were given the treatments?
That is unclear. That's a really good question. Can you maintain your lifestyle?
Right. This is I'm all about
like we're asking the important questions.
Right.
But this is exactly what you want, though. It's great to find out that, oh yeah, if we change this gene, that gene, the other gene, we can have this tremendous longevity. Oh great, where do I sign up? Oh no, it has to be done before you're born.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so in this way,
to me.
Yeah. Instead of a daily mineral supplement, you just take your daily gene supplement and you're good to go.
Pill full of viral gene.
How long did it take to show the reversals after the gene therapy?
Had to be quick. Those mice don't live long.
I know. That's what I'm thinking. Like a week?
Well, it was fairly rapid, and it was like I said, with only one treatment sometimes. Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so does it also? So it increases longevity and health, or longevity through health?
Longevity through health.
Okay.
Right. So it's instead of obesity and diabetes leading to metabolic disease that would then lead to all sorts of complications, leading to an earlier death. It helps to limit the obesity, limits the effects of diabetes, limited the kidney failure, limited or improved heart function. So then you live better, so you can live longer.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah. So the big question now is, these are mice. When are we going to get this in people? Because that would be really amazing. But to see that this is working in mice is a huge step.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
Big time.
Yeah. Yep. Much more needed to be researched, but this is a pretty big deal. So
that's cool.
Yeah. Justin, what do you have?
Let's see. What do I have here? Floodwaters, high winds, deep freezing, droughts, hurricanes, fires. These are an assortment of risks that can affect real estate values. If you buy a home near a volcano or one of those recurring risk factors, you may pay much less for your home than somebody who is then buying a home outside of the danger zone. These
Makes
also
sense.
happen to be the sort of risks that can increase in some areas due to global warming. So these researchers decided to, this is a study from UBC Sauder School of Business, wanted to go and look and see how global warming was affecting real estate prices. And it turns out it affects it depending on how educated the population is on climate change. So Florida has a lot of conservative areas and also has a lot of low-lying areas. And the low-lying, flood-prone, hurricane-prone areas, the housing isn't really that different than if it's out of this. So they found between 10 and 12% of homes in Florida and Hawaii could be inundated by being low coastal regions. And according to this, about 2% of U.S. homes are at risk of being underwater by the year 2100. That's quite a large number. But there was a disparity, roughly, they say, about 7% more for homes in believer neighborhoods if they're out of the low-lying areas. Deniers would buy those homes for approximately 7% more than those who believed in global warming. So, sort of an interesting thing. They found that there wasn't as big of a difference. That 7% swing between whether or not you believe in global warming didn't seem to affect very much in California, where they say the population is more believing in global warming, understanding those results. But it still existed here to some point. Globally, they said it's kind of hard. In Europe, they wouldn't expect. They didn't do it. They only did it here in the States, but they wouldn't expect it to be as big as 7%. Because global warming is pretty well accepted there. So the risk analysis of a property would be pretty similar across the population.
I mean, this does sound very much like a correlation. We don't know, what actually is causative here. But I think that part of the reason I'm guessing that California is doing better despite these kind of indicators is that a big part of this also is on the statewide requirements for property to have proper adaptation and preparation for the impacts from climate change. And I know that California is really aggressive on that stuff. And so I think that part of that has to do with the governmental regulations on properties.
Although, you know what the first thing I thought of? I thought of the properties that were a large number of the properties that were victims of, say, the Paradise Fire. I was thinking of properties below the Oroville Dam. They're some of the less expensive properties because they are in more flood zone or fire zone. Yeah. They also tend to be very conservative areas. So I don't know if that's quite the connection that I was that's being represented in this.
I think it's interesting, the economic disparity question too, because if you think about just access to home buying in general and buying property, and then of course the more risky properties are going to be cheaper, and that there's so many layers to this with economic access and economic disparity in our country for home buyers. That's really an interesting study. And again, like correlation, causation, all of that kind of like the science of it aside, there is this
sort of the background.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's this really intense kind of catch-22 and dilemma that climate change communicators have in relation to this, because the people most impacted by climate change are usually the less advantaged, right? But the people who feel like they don't have the ability or bandwidth or even mental space to deal with climate change because they have to deal with their day-to-day are also those same people. And so the way that you can identify that disparity and explain that actually climate change is a big problem for you and it's part of your daily quality of life. So help us, demand that this gets fixed is a big part of the conversation, because right now the environmental movement in general is kind of seen as an effort of the affluent.
Right. Yeah.
And how about we just stop taking advantage of people and don't build in those areas anymore?
Well, yeah,
and not develop areas that are flood prone.
And the thing is, how are we going to make money? In the Florida study, it may not have. I mean, we could be talking about the most expensive homes. We could be talking about a wealthy set of folks who are still willing to pay more for a home that could be at risk because they don't believe in global warming.
Right.
So, and this is my teaser at the beginning. This is Atlantis. Right. Yeah. This is Atlantis was probably made up of conservatives before it sank into the ancient seas because they didn't believe the sea was right. Okay. However, if you owned property on Atlantis that sunk, regardless of your politics, you now believe in it. Okay? You now believe the water was rising. This is a different study. This was in the School of Public Policy, OSU College of Liberal Arts. They said people who identify as politically conservative are more likely to support climate change mitigation policies if they report experiencing personal harm from an extreme weather event such as wildfire, flood, or tornado, according to this new study. So we're talking weather events in this scenario, which is also the refutation of global warming because, hey, what a nice cold winter it was, or how much rain, they're not completely correlated, but if that's what's working, it
makes extreme weather more likely.
Yeah, in areas it makes extreme weather more likely. In some areas it makes it less likely. Like California doesn't have enough torrential rains.
Unless you count wildfires as extreme weather, which you do.
Yes,
right.
There you go.
Yeah.
But what I thought was interesting about this is, I mean, this was surveys across political ideologies, and they got this sort of hit from it. But it comes down to then what you were talking about of stopping with the facts and finding a way to get that empathy across. Because obviously, if somebody feels personally affected by global warming, they're more interested in creating mitigation or more interested in mitigation policies. Them not to have been necessarily personally affected by global warming, but get them to have empathy for others who have and have that associated. So it's there's a signal in there that says that there is a path to getting somebody to change their mind. We just now need to not wish for hurricanes, but maybe if we get to the point where we are saying the wildfire is from global warming.
It was worse because of global warming. Right. Yeah. Then you get to a point where you can move forward.
If you start connecting.
Yeah. You can start connecting.
If you start connecting weather with global, that might be, the scientists are just a little too good at their job sometime and saying, it's weather. It's just, that's one event. Let's not, coin that as global warming. If we stop having that mindset and start going, that storm was global warming. That's what it looks like.
So I think another way to look at this is I think about something that was really successful nationwide that was kind of hard to get going, and that's pushing for the legalization of gay marriage. And what actually helped with that in the end was recognizing if I am not gay, my friend might be gay, my daughter might be gay, my friend's daughter might be gay. And so there's this recognition that we have all been touched by someone who has been touched by someone who has been touched by this issue. And I think that is what's coming to mind with me here, is that whether it's a crazy frigid winter or wildfires in California or Florida at sinking, right? There's people all over the country that are feeling the effects of climate change, whether they realize that's what it is they are feeling or not. And our job is to make sure to use that lens and recognize that even though everyone is feeling it, if they don't think they're feeling it, they probably know someone who is. Even if it's The Rock who has a home that's in danger of being burned down because I follow The Rock on Twitter or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, you do.
So I think this is an opportunity to remind us that we are this community of people and we all know someone who has been touched by this issue.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but
it's not a someone else issue. It's our community issue.
But you need to then go reverse and connect weather to global warming. The thing that we've been fighting doing, or I've heard like too much caveat against, start connecting it. Because apparently that does affect people's thinking.
Okay.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Something to think about, everyone. And while we're pondering that issue, I think it's time for us to move.
Oh, it's my favorite part of the show.
Part of the show. It's about animals and stuff. Oh my gosh, Blair's Animal Corner.
With Blair.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. You want to hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. Blair's Animal Corner.
Got Blair.
I have vampire bats. So vampire bats, you might assume that they want to suck your blood, but actually this study, it discovers that they want to just hang out. So vampire bats, we know that they're social. They live in large groups in the wild, but this recent study from, let's see if I can say it, Museum für Naturkunde, Leibniz Institute for Evolution and Biodiversity Science in Berlin, so a study from Berlin, found that these bats actually can make connections that are pretty long lasting. And the way that they did this was really phenomenal. They actually took bats from the wild and they kind of randomly picked them from these groups. So they didn't pick bats that were next to each other or were showing relationships with one another right away. And they put them into a lab setting, into captivity for a while. And then they released them again later. And when they did that, they watched the relationships in the wild, in captivity, and then again in the wild again. And they were allowed to do this actually by working together with electrical engineers and computer science specialists to develop novel proximity sensors, these teeny tiny sensors. They're lighter than a penny. They use these to capture what they consider the social groups of these entire huge groups of bats and update them every few seconds. They could link what they knew about the bats' relationships in captivity to what they saw in the wild. And from there, they found that shared grooming and food sharing among female bats in captivity over 22 months predicted who they'd interact with in the wild. Not all of the relationships survived, but they found that the bonds made in captivity weren't just a byproduct of confinement and limited options. So at first you're thinking it's like, you know, your prison buddies. Like, we really went through something tough together. You know, we really stuck together and kept in touch after we were on the outside. No, that's not what this was. They were following what was happening in the wild as well, but they really just found that these relationships that were built were lasting. So this is the first time they've really looked at these complex social networks and their resilience outside of primates, as far as we can tell. But I'm not surprised at all to hear this. That,
So
you know,
when there's those,
You're never surprised.
when there's like a million bats going into a cave or whatever, they're actually like buddying up with little cliques of their friends.
oh, hey, Steve, how you been? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh wow.
Well, we do know that vampire bats, they have a really interesting social structure with their blood meals. And we've talked before on the show about how the bats will go out and they will forage for their blood meal. And then if a bat doesn't get a meal and comes back to the cave all starving and like, I didn't eat, I'm so hungry, I need a power bar, then other bats nearby may, you know, regurgitate
Blood into their mouths.
Power barf.
power barf.
So sweet.
No,
Yeah. It's a power up.
it's a bloody bad joke.
You guys are good.
We're bad.
And they remember who they have helped out. And so the bats, if they feel like another bat is taking advantage of them and just freeloading, they will stop giving them that free meal. And
Not
so
anymore,
the
you're cut off.
relationships, these bats do remember the bats they interact with. So this is a really, I'm not surprised they did this study with vampire bats based on that, but this is just interesting on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. So this I'm really glad they did it because it kind of opens up the scope of the different types of social animals where this might happen. But it does make sense. You know, animals remember each other. There are groups of animals where they even remember other individuals of other species. So there's enough social knowledge in any social grouping that it makes sense this would happen. But I do think it's very interesting that it sustains throughout these very different experiences.
Yeah.
So their
cool.
next steps are to work on individual differences in cooperativeness among vampire bats. And they want to explore how individuals go from being strangers to cooperation partners. So how's their meet cute work? How do they move from that into being best friends? How does the social relationship build with vampire bats? So they also want to see these two different kind of buckets and see if they're connected, whether bats that cooperate within their day also go hunting together at night. Are they just friends and they're spending all their time together? Are they like, Denise, I need a break. I'll see you tomorrow.
Denise is just
one thing
much.
Yeah. The one thing I would want to know about this about bats is if they're hanging out with each other in the cave, is it just because they picked a similar location? Like back to the same group. It's because they're all going back to their same.
Their neighborhood, their house, their block.
They tested for. So within the neighborhood, why do you hang out with your buddy who lives across the street and not the person who lives next to you? So that's what they were testing. So they took this random assortment of bats from one cave, but not ones that lived near each other. And they put them in captivity where they were near each other. And they developed relationships during that time. And then they put them back out into the wild, kind of redispersed them, and they found each other again.
Okay. Nice.
Meant to be.
Yeah.
Meant to be.
It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So vampire bats, they have very intense relationships. Next, I have a piece of news about elephants and elephant ivory. We talk about endangered animals and endangered animal products all the time, and it can often be kind of a bummer. But what I really like to talk about is what science and technology are doing to help protect and save these species, because there actually are good news stories out there, and there are people working really hard to figure out how to save these animals. So this is from the University of Illinois, and they're looking at a new online tool to be able to track ivory after they confiscate it. So this is a new interactive database online. It looks at geographic and genetic information, and it helps authorities quickly identify where confiscated tusks are coming from. This is looking at African elephants. This database matches genetic sequences from poached ivory to those in a massive database. They have about 1 for every 200 African elephants sequenced in this database. So they have a really rich database to work on. What they found was, looking at mitochondrial DNA, it's the gift that keeps on giving, there is a lot of good information there. Because mitochondrial DNA is passed from females to their offspring, that means that due to that, combined with the fact that elephants are that the herd matrilineal, thank you. And so that means that even though there's one male and a bunch of females, the females stay. The male is the one that has to kick rocks when he gets old. So that means females stick around. So in terms of mitochondrial DNA, that is a really lasting flag. Hey, this elephant came from over here. So all of that together means they can take confiscated ivory. They can look at the mitochondrial DNA in that ivory, which, again, the DNA in ivory is dead. Ivory is dead tissue, but the cells are embedded in this bone, and so it's actually still pretty easy to read. You can actually get a result within 6 days after confiscating a piece of ivory, and that gives you a really short turnaround to be able to follow the DNA to the location, see if there's a trend happening with the ivory that's being pulled. They can actually see if there's specific kind of rackets or pathways that poachers are moving through, and that can help them to get to the bottom of what's going on pretty quickly, increase the speed of response to poaching in unexpected areas, and protect specific areas of elephants if they're being targeted.
Right.
So this sounds like a follow-up of something reported on a few years ago, where they had done a bunch of testing on ivory that they had confiscated, and they tracked it. They managed to track it backwards to like a very specific subset of smugglers. Like it was all getting funneled through sort of bottleneck before. I mean, this is it's tragic, but this is fantastic news that this tool is now being used on a wider scale.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, Africa's really big, and elephants move.
Preach.
You know,
They have such huge home ranges, such incredible home ranges.
So to just try to say, okay, we're going to protect all of the space where elephants live, that's not the most effective, or it's not realistic either. So to be able to really hone in on where exactly we need to put our energy in a given time, in a given season, whatever it may be, can really make a big difference.
Yeah. Oh, elephants.
They're amazing.
They are truly.
The more we can do to protect species.
No. And a keystone species at that.
Yeah, they've got like
Yeah.
2 or 3 times more neural connections than humans.
I believe it.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise 100%. Yeah. I used to work with elephants at the Philadelphia Zoo, and I had sort of like limited. I did more like camels and wallabies, but I had some moments with elephants that just will change your whole.
I think we visited that zoo.
Yeah.
I saw those elephants. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have them anymore. It was like almost 20 years ago now, but I think Philadelphia fought to get rid of the elephants and retire them to that Tennessee elephant place.
Oh, no, I'm thinking the Baltimore.
You're thinking of Baltimore. I was going to say, I went to the Philadelphia Zoo without you guys after you left when we were
That's right, we left.
Yeah.
But anyway, elephants.
Elephants.
We can help
save
them
the elephants.
with science.
That's right. And with these thoughts, there's this question. We could sit around and we could think these thoughts. We could think about things, all sorts of things. Or we could pick up our devices and do a thing. Or we could sit on the couch and watch something. Apparently, according to a study that was just published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, researchers tested preferences for engaging in solitary activities in 11 countries: Belgium, Brazil, Costa Rica, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Portugal, Serbia, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States. They wanted to know if people in different countries if they had differences in their preference for reading, watching TV, that kind of stuff, or just sitting around and thinking. Turns out, around the world, people would rather do other stuff than think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I'd be surprised, but yeah.
2,557 participants, 11 countries, randomly assigned to 2 groups. Half the participants were asked to spend 10 to 15 minutes thinking freely and entertaining themselves with their thoughts as best they could.
How long? 15 minutes?
10 to 15 minutes.
That's pretty long.
Yeah. The researchers requested the other half entertain themselves by watching TV, reading a book or magazine, working on a puzzle, looking at the internet, playing a video game, or listening to music or the radio. They had to do it, either group, by themselves. No
I just
other
picture
people.
the first group like with their face pressed up against the window on the second test group. They get to watch TV.
Could you watch the other group right through because is that technically watching something?
Right. No. Yeah. They couldn't watch the other people, but they were asked.
Does daydreaming count? Like,
that would be
thinking, right?
That would be thinking. Daydreaming would be entertaining yourself with your thoughts.
Man, I would have crushed that study. Bring it. Right? I'm a daydreamer.
I'm like, let me be by myself. I mean, can I stare at the clouds? Or, I mean, 100%. I could even close my eyes and I'll be good.
What if you fell asleep? Is that a fail?
Yeah, because it's automatically failing.
I'd be like, oh, it's quiet in here.
What about just sitting in your car in the driveway instead of going into the house?
Oh, yeah.
Which is what I do all the time.
This is exactly why I have the do not unplug order. I don't need any of you. I can if I'm in there at all, even under a massively
it's
reduced capacity,
always resuscitate.
Always resuscitate, or just leave me in there. You don't even have to bother with that. Just don't unplug. I'm fine. I never needed any of you to begin with. It was nice talking to all of you. It was great interacting, but I was good before I knew any of you. I'll be fine after.
Thanks, Justin. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so anyway, they looked at the levels of enjoyment and boredom that they experienced during the experiment and to get the preferences. And so, other distracting activities.
You just need to download the material in advance. You just need to download the content in advance, whether it's through books or attending classes. If you have enough content in there between your ears, you don't need another source. I mean, you'll be curious. You'll want other sources. But you can go a really long time with the content you already have downloaded.
Or there's the exact opposite of that, which is meditation.
Right.
Just trying to empty your brain.
I'm not good at that. I am not good at that. That's the what that is. Oh yeah. The thing that happens is the self-aware consciousness takes over, and I'm thinking about nothing. Well, not nothing. I'm thinking about this, thinking about nothing. Well, no, it's not. Okay, so now is this nothing? No, you're still talking. Okay, this is what I have like this train of thought dialogue that takes over and disembodies itself and just rambles senselessly the entire time I'm trying to meditate.
Listening to this, I can believe it.
I'm never gonna meditate again after listening to that. I'm like,
is this a thing? I can't believe there's just like whole places where people go and do this all day. The pillow is nice,
but
the pillow is nice. I'm glad I'm not on the floor, but.
So for those of us who enjoy our time in our brains, in our heads to ourselves, eventually we could be watched by the computers. Researchers from the Russian corporation Neurobotics and the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology using EEG, so signals collected from outside of the brain, outside of the skull, not involving implants, not involving opening the brain up for any purpose, but from electrical waves recorded from outside of the skull, have been able to visualize a person's brain activity as actual images. And now these images
That's bad.
The images are taken mostly of visual images, because how else would you visualize? What else would you visualize for visualization? And the images themselves seem to be impressionist. They're fuzzy, but they have a very striking resemblance to the images that test subjects had been viewing.
What?
This is bad. This is
not real. This is real? Like this is
real, and this is like an EEG cap that was placed on the participants' heads. Your thoughts will never be your own again. So while you are enjoying your thoughts, other people may entertain themselves while watching yours.
So there's that, the sci-fi angle, but there's also the angle of Justin, who's a vegetable who doesn't want to be unplugged.
Exactly.
We can actually communicate with him then.
No, leave me alone. You finally got some peace and quiet.
GooTube.
But okay, so this is real time, and these pictures here are visual stimulus that's being sort of captured. It's not I think it would be much more interesting if you had somebody who was attempting to visualize something and then could capture an image. I'm wondering if they tried this? Did that work?
They haven't published that yet, so
or is it because that doesn't work? Because I think that's the first thing I would try. And if it worked.
So the way that this worked with their brain-computer interface algorithm, they have the EEGs, so you have the brain waves from the outside of the head that are collected. Those brain waves, then there's an algorithm that's able to recognize waves for certain features or for get rid of noise and actually start creating an image. And if you have an image, oh, no, I will take that back. I will take this back. In the second phase of the experiment, here we go. Yes, the to visualize brain activity. They were shown previously unseen videos as they watched the EEGs were recorded, fed to the neural networks. The system passed the test, blah, blah, blah. And yes, then they did move on to visualizing, not viewing. Yeah.
Did that work? Did they get images from this?
Yes.
The small business owner in me sees an opportunity for almost like RFID blocking wallets, for like some kind of helmet where I can block other people trying to read my brain and still think about it's stylish,
like your stuff.
And just like, because it's the only thing, sometimes I think this, sometimes I think, well, at least with all the privacy stuff and everything, at least I have my own brain. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
So with a picture of a person or something that you have in your head, those can be very specific. If you're walking up to an ATM machine and you're having to think of a password, for instance, then is that visually written out, the password? Does it come through?
Depends if you've memorized it as a visual cue or as something else.
Or a movement.
Mine's a pattern, right? But also, if you think of the way text works in your mind, it's not as it's a much more fluid thing than a face of a person or something like this.
I don't know, though. Some people think very visually. I have a banner that unrolls in my brain that says in bold letters, hungry, when I am hungry. I don't feel a hunger pain. I see it in my brain as a word.
And then people who have that picture perfect memory. Yeah. Is it really photographic? I mean, can we just see it all now?
Could you take somebody through your mind castle?
Like offer tours? I'm a small business owner, so
we're all going this way. No.
Come this way. Come down the hall.
The West Wing is off limits. If we could just come this way. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And yes, so far it's visual. This is from the visual system. This is a system that we understand very well. We have previous experiments that have worked out this. We've done these experiments in cats where we've put electrodes in the cat's brains, had the cats watch TV, and then been able to project an image of what was in the cat's visual cortex onto a screen that looks just like the screen that they're looking at. This is one step removed. There's no implant directly into the brain. It's external. And we're talking about people now and people thinking visually. Movements and words and sounds, that's going to be another layer of complexity yet. But it's a big step forward. So this is the next way that the Russians are going to get into our lives. Oh my God. We can all run away, though, or maybe we can just dream of being Voyager 2, though. Voyager 2 went into interstellar space 1 year ago, almost today, on November 5th, 2018. And 5 papers were just published in Nature Astronomy, I believe is the where the publications came out. 5 papers talking about its experience and what they found from the various instruments. A lot of it matches with Voyager 1 leaving the heliosphere, leaving the influence of our sun behind and entering interstellar space. There were a couple of things that were a little bit different. It seems that as opposed to Voyager 1, when it left the heliosphere, there were no solar particles leaking out. But for Voyager 2, it's still measuring the leakage. It's measuring solar particles that are coming out. So different parts of the heliopause, which is that barrier, that imaginary barrier between interstellar space and the heliosphere, it's a little leaky on the sides, off the dead center. Voyager 1 kind of went out the front door, and Voyager 2, it took a side window. We have to send more things out into space, but this is the second craft to have left our solar system, and it is still going, and it's telling us more and more and more about our universe. Isn't it cool? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks, Voyager 2.
And we're still talking. That's right. I love that we're still talking to these craft that have been out there for decades. They're still sending information back. They are It's brilliant. Engineers
I know, yeah.
are fantastic. This is good. All right, those are my last stories. Hey, Justin, what you got?
Oh, I'm good. I've got.
You're good?
I got through mine. Yeah.
You got through yours, Blair? Do you have a last story?
I have one last story about killer sharks. They're killing bacteria, though, so that's good.
Oh.
Okay.
This is a study from King Abdullah University in Saudi Arabia, and they just found these black tip reef sharks that often have wounds on them, but they just never see them looking sick or infected. So they actually tested the microbial community living on the skin of sharks, on the skin of sharks that were not wounded, on the skin of sharks that were wounded, and near the actual wounds and in the wounds themselves. And they found that by sequencing RNA from these samples, that there was no difference in the bacterial communities on injured skin, on gills, and uninjured skin or gills. So there's no evidence of infection in or around these wounds. Shark skin does not become infected easily, and the native bacterial community can be maintained even after injury. So I do just want to mention quickly that there is something mechanically about shark skin that makes it hard for bacteria to land on it, because they have these little dermal denticles, which basically just means skin teeth.
They have skin teeth.
Yeah, they're just sandpapery, and it's really hard for bigger bacteria like E. coli and stuff like that, to gain purchase, to be able to stick on these guys, which is why they talk about making like shark skin cutting boards and stuff like that. Because it has.
They do?
Who talks about this?
Not out of real shark skin, but out of
Fishermen, I'm sure.
artificially created shark skin, right? Just bumpy materials that are similar because they have these natural antibacterial properties. But so that probably is something about this. But if that was the only thing, then you would see infection inside open wounds.
Yeah.
And the fact that that's not there means something's going on. There's a strong hypothesis from this group thinking that it has to do with the microbes that are naturally occurring there, that actually it's the microbial community that is killing off non-native bacteria, but there's no research done on that yet. That's just a theory, because there is this strong microbial community that persists. So very cool stuff that sharks are doing to continue to be amazing and long-lived. If we could just stop killing them, that would be great.
Fingers are crossed.
I'm talking about a misunderstood animal, bug.
I know.
Oh,
We
yes.
always talk about sharks. So
Oh.
misunderstood.
Well, sharks fly around in the air in tornadoes and they eat people with chainsaws.
And then real quick to tag onto your story,
No.
a surface, like a plastic surface cutting board versus a wood cutting board, they found that wood is actually better at preventing microbial growth, because they get absorbed. And then if it was aerobic and that's an anaerobic environment, it's just not as effective. Whereas plastic, even if it's not going to get absorbed into the material, being on the surface is a happier place for the bacteria.
That's interesting.
Unless perhaps it was made out of dermal denticles. TBD.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to test that someday, I guess.
We could try it, but I'm just imagining sandpaper cutting board. You're going to have some dull knives pretty fast.
That's true, but also
Only cut in one direction.
Your kind of squeaky and slippery food items that you cut wouldn't slip around.
This is true.
No, naturally
Cost benefit.
grabbing.
Yeah.
There, yeah. Okay. All right. Cost benefit. But yeah, I'll have what the sharks are having.
Connor, would you want to get in on this with me or what?
You can you can pitch that one to the Shark Tank yourself.
All right.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
It already has happened before.
Shark Tank. We're swimming in it. We love that you're in it with us. We have come to the end of our show. I want to send some shout outs out there to people who deserve them. Thank you to Fada for helping with show notes and social media. Thank you to Gord McLeod for managing our chat room. Thank you to Identity4 for recording the show. Thank you to the Bug Chicks for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
We really enjoyed this. Yeah. This is super fun. Y'all are great at what you do.
Oh, thank you. You are too, and wish you the best in getting a show, making your own show, but also educating and helping a lot of people through insects. Yeah. And once again, what's your website?
Thebugchicks.com.
There we go. And you can also follow them on Twitter. And I need to say thank you now to our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Paul Disney, Ed Dyer, Andrew Swanson, Craig Landon, Andy Groh, Ed Stu Pollock, Philip Shane, Ken Hayes, Harrison Prather, Charlene Henry, Joshua Fury, Steve DeBell, Alex Wilson, Tony Steele, Richard Porter, Mark Massaros, Jack, Matthew Litwin, Jason Roberts, Bill K, Bob Calder, Eric Knapp, Richard, Brian Condren, Dave Neighbor, Howard Tan, Gome K, Donald Bundus, Sarah Forfar, Dan K, Matt Bass, Darwin Hannon, Patrick Pecoraro, Ben Bignell, Gene Tellier, John Gridley, Corinne Benton, Adam LaJoy, Sarah Chavis, Rodney Lewis, Tiffany Boyd, John Bertram, Mountain Sloth, Seth O'Gradney, Stephen Alberon, John Ratnaswamy, Dave Friedel, Daryl Myshak, Paul Ronovich, Sue Oster, Dave Wilkinson, Noodles, Kevin Reardon, Christoph Zucknarek, Ashish Pants, Ulysses Adkins, Artyom, Rick Ramus, Paul, John McKee, Jason Olds, Brian Carrington, Christopher Dreyer, Lisa Suzuki, Jim Drapeau, Greg Riley, Sean Lamb, Steve Leisman, Kurt Larson, Rudy Garcia, Marjorie, Gary S., Robert, Greg Briggs, Brendan Minish, Christopher Rappin, Flying Out, Aaron Luthen, Matt Sutter, Mac Hessenflow, Gavin Parachan, Byron Lee, and E.O. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon.
That list keeps growing. I love it.
It's amazing.
I love it, too. I love reading it. It's my challenge to not mess up on names.
And you've got a little Micro Machines rhythm to it now.
I was super impressed.
If you are interested in supporting us, you can find information at TWIS.org or patreon.com/thisweekinscience. On next week's show, we will be joined by Dr. Steve Scott from Cray Inc. He's going to join us to discuss exascale computing. That's big computing, in case you didn't know. That's supercomputers next week. And we will be broadcasting live online, 8 p.m. Pacific time on twis.org/live. You can watch and join our chat room. You can also do that at YouTube. You can find our past episodes at YouTube or at twis.org as well.
I kind of really hope that Dr. Steve Scott has a lot of tattoos being from Cray Inc. And that they are just totally out there tattoos. Thank you for enjoying the show. TWIS is also available as a podcast. Just Google This Week in Science in your iTunes directory or wherever podcasts are found. And if you enjoyed the show, remember to tell your friends about TWIS. And if you didn't enjoy the show, you probably have a friend who would like it more than you did. So tell them about TWIS.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes will be available on our website. That's at www.twis.org. While you're there, be sure to make comments and start conversations with the hosts and other listeners if you like. And while you're there, you can pre-order the 2020 TWIS Blair's Animal Corner calendar with both a dung beetle and a Hercules beetle inside. Since we were talking about
people get
bugs
beetles
tonight.
this year. Awesome.
You
can also hit us up directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com. Justin at twistminion@gmail.com or Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in the subject line. Otherwise, what will happen?
Your email will be spam filtered into oblivion.
You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there is a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes during the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science, This Week in Science, This Week in Science, 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 This Week in Science, This Week in Science, This Week in Science, 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 Science. I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy, jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. Cause it's This Week in Science, This Week in Science, This Week in Science, 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 This Week in Science, This Week in Science, This Week in Science, 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 Science. Got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. So how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. 'Cause it's This Week in Science, This Week in Science, This Week in Science, 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 This Week in Science, This Week in Science, This Week in Science, 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 This Week in 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 Science.